Cool. Um, yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to set my son up with some cartoons or something.
No, you can do that.
Oh, toaster oven person's here. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Did you say she was selling a toaster oven?
She's selling a toaster oven right now.
That's amazing.
Yeah. How have you been?
Been pretty good, man. Pretty good. Just still HSI. Baba Boo, Monkey.
HSI.
Which one? Go. No, you always say that, and then you want to switch it. Look, watch this.
Anything new over there?
HSI?
Yeah.
No. Well, I mean, other than the fact that like shit's new all the time. I got promoted. Did I tell you that?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So now I make $11.50.
Wow. That's only like $3 less than me.
Are you serious? God damn it. That sucks.
Well, the only part of that sucks is that you're someone's boss.
Oh, I am now too. Yeah.
Are you anyone's boss?
Yeah, well, okay. They call it a quote unquote semi-leadership role.
Uh-huh.
So it's like Tom and Mary.
Okay.
They gave me all twos.
Are you serious?
What's that? Back away.
So you got what, $10 in twos?
Yep. Dude, my life is stranger than fiction. I'll lay down.
I didn't know that buying like a toaster oven was a thing that people do. Not new.
I don't know. I discovered OfferUp, and I've just been getting rid of a bunch of crap. And I put the toaster oven on there because I used it twice. And
Is it the Lego app?
Huh?
The Let Go app?
A Lego lap?
No, the Let Go app. Is that what you're using?
No, it's called OfferUp, but it's the same concept.
Got it.
Yep. Just selling some stuff.
Cool. You guys want to see what I got yesterday at Home Depot?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, love Home Depot.
Because I make like more money than Daytona, but less money than Tracy. So I feel like
we were talking about our wages.
I feel like every pay scale is represented. Oh, I know. Yeah.
A router. A router.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
What is that?
Well, this is a router so that I can make cool edges on tables and chairs and any wood, really.
Cool.
Wood things. Yeah, it has this little like piece in here.
It makes your computer internet work.
Yeah. All you gotta do is.
That's what I was thinking.
Do you want to hear? You want to hear how loud it is?
Yes.
Sure.
So loud. I don't have any bits in it right now, so you don't have to worry about me cutting my finger off or anything. Okay. You plug it in. Are you ready for this?
All right.
God. Kind of loud.
Yeah.
Bob.
So loud.
It's okay. If I had a new pair of shoes, I'd be doing the same thing. Want to see my new shoes? Like, they're so cool.
Yeah, this is kind of like that, except I can't walk on this.
Back away. Heard.
But yeah, I'm pretty proud of that thing.
Awesome.
I guess we should talk about something so that people will actually want to watch this.
All right.
Um,
Game.
let's do it. Daytona.
Yep.
Explain why you don't go to church.
Ooh, wow.
That's an awesome question. My mom asks me that all the time. Well, probably, to be honest, a lot of it is laziness. But also, it's hard for me to go to church and not get pissed off.
Cool.
Like, I don't know. I've been going to church for a really long time, and I've talked to a lot of people who come to church for the first time, and I hear the things that they say that they hear. And so when I hear the pastor saying things, and I'm like, maybe somebody's here for the first time, it pisses me off. like 30 minutes on money.
Yeah.
That shit pisses me off.
Yep.
Oh, covenant membership?
Yeah. First of all, the need for those two words is together is kind of weird. But yeah. Yeah, I get it. So let's hit all three of those. So we got talking about money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously covenant membership. We can talk about membership. And then there's also just like cliched stuff that you're not into. Right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess it's become a cliche. But
well, so let's start with that thing. What happens when you start going to a church? Let's say you get saved, right? And you're going to a church and you're kind of learning and you're reading your Bible more, you're praying more, you're going to some classes. And then you reach a point where you don't really consider yourself a beginner, right?
Yeah.
Like someone who just showed up. But you notice that you're hearing the same thing you heard, let's say, the past year.
I mean, that's okay because I always find that, well, not always, but a lot of times I can find something new about it. You know what I mean? So, like, I can find something new about it. Not specifically in the way that it was presented, but in my own head, I guess I can find something new about it.
Mm-hmm.
I started to learn after going to church for a long time that it was interesting how cliches became, well, I mean, cliches made sense after they happened. Like, you hear things 1,000 times, and then they happen to you, and then you know why they're cliches. I guess maybe on that note, I wish that the cliches were explained in a more realistic way. That's pretty vague, I know, but that's all I got from that.
Well, I think we have like a lot of, like we have this new language that happens only in like church presentations.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
So like instead of saying, like if I said, hey, Tracy, we should hang out and talk about some stuff, right? What happens in a lot of settings is you would use the words like connect and like we need to connect on this and can we,
that would just creep me out.
There's actually a whole YouTube video on it. It's actually really, really funny.
Yeah, so there's like this whole different way. I remember I was listening to this sermon on this podcast, and it's actually like people I like, so, but all the words they were saying when they were talking about God, I just thought like, I don't know why you're using all these words. Like they're like, so the other day, right, I was in a dialogue with God. And I was like, why don't you just say you were talking to him? And then it's like, and then we decided to connect about his heart about this. And I said, what? Why aren't you talking normal? What happened? Because I know these people, right? And so I know that like when we hang out, they don't use any of these words.
Right.
So I'm wondering like, just because you're presenting something to a room of people.
Like
And so
it
You know,
almost makes like it feel really exclusive, you know? Like it creates like a feel of exclusivity when you use, like, for lack of a better phrase, church speak.
right. Yeah,
How's your heart, Robert? How's your heart?
my
Oh.
heart. It is beating like an ivory drum.
That's one that I get a lot. How's your heart? How's your walk?
Well, let me tell you what happened to me kind of early on. So I was thinking about, well, anyway, I told this girl that I liked her at church. And since I was a Christian, this was like pretty much like the first person that I like decided, oh, I kind of like this person. It'd be cool to like hang out and date or whatever. So I said to her, yeah, you know, I like you, so I think like we should like hang out. And she said, okay, meet me at Starbucks and we can meet and talk about it, right? And so I was like, okay. So I meet there and she's like, okay, basically here is what God is calling me to do with my life. And I want to know what God is calling you to do with your life. So I know that if we can date. And I said, huh?
Did she ask for your resume?
Did she what?
She asked for your Jesus resume.
Well, basically, that's what it was. And I said, well, this is weird because you're a girl. I'm attracted to girls. And that's literally the only reason this is happening. You know, like I'm not thinking about this any more than that. So this is weird. But then it became like we couldn't date yet. We then could proceed to hanging out. And then from hanging out, we could proceed to like, you know, being together, but that's not necessarily dating. And then maybe we could court each other. And then when I asked what courting was, after hours of explanation, the only thing I found out was that it wasn't dating. I think that's
like,
for sure what it is that it is not dating. But I could not figure out what it was actually. So then I was like, well, weird. And then I think that like when we would hang out, then you know we would do the parking lot thing where you hang out in the cold in the parking lot because you know you're hanging out, and that was still weird. So yeah.
No, I get it. That's hella weird.
Yeah,
and
it's
like,
really, really weird.
It's pushed. I feel like that sort of like culture is really pushed, you know?
Yeah.
From when you're really young. To kind of be not human.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so odd. So let's go to like, so the thing that you were talking about before was, which is what I like to talk about, is money.
Right.
So I actually think that the church should not take any money.
Right, they should make tents.
I think that part of, and this is my weird idea, and I actually am not very demanding of it, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I would never say, like, this has to be law, and, you know, I'm pissed unless it happens. But it's just an idea I have that would just remove any manipulation from money. If you want to be a 501c3, if you want to have tax exempt status as a church, I think you should have to, as part of that, have some sort of community involvement. Whether that is you have a coffee shop, you have a business, you have a food pantry, you're doing something for the community that can be for profit. And that way, all of that money just goes to the church, and it can just go to paying staff. And that's all that money can be used for, is paying staff. And then that way, if the church does take donations for something like building something or a trip, you know, general fundraising stuff, that it doesn't have to be kind of encouraged so that the staff can get paid and eat. Because what ends up happening, I think, is a church needs a pastor. Yeah. The church needs a pastor to run it. Most churches can only afford one full-time pastor, unless they're pretty successful. And that depends on how many people are there. So there's this thing, right? Like, there's you have a family as a pastor, and you want to have money to provide for your family, so they have food. So when someone doesn't show up on a Sunday, because that seat is empty, that equals that person's not there to give a tithe or an offering, potentially. And so that for that pastor, that directly translates to, I may get less money because we're a small church that can only afford one full-time pastor. I'm doing like 6 jobs at once, and a person not there and not tithing can equal I have less money to live with. So there's a pressure on people to like get people to church, have people in church. So
that's interesting. It comes from like both sides, like it's not just bad for like making people feel like obliged to give money and a little bit, like what is it? What do they call it? Prosperity. But it's also bad on the church leader side, because then it's like, well, I'm here to save souls and make sure I get paid.
Yeah. Well, I think it's bad for everybody, because I think it's bad for the leader because now they can't lead from a pure place based on what the need of the church is, because there is no way to talk about the giving, being generous, the offering, the tithe. You can't even talk about those principles without having at least a conflict of interest. It's just impossible. Even if you consciously like set out not to, it creeps in. People just feel manipulated. You end up saying stuff. You end up like just taking a twist on scripture that just isn't there. You know what I mean? Like when the Bible talks about bringing the whole tithe into the storehouse, and then you examine, well, the storehouses weren't for local churches. They were for the house of prayer and the tabernacle. So
right. And the Bible also says, you don't see something along these lines. I'm going to misquote it, but something along the lines of, you don't see like the birds gathering things, they just know they'll provide, so like the whole idea of a storehouse anyway is kind of an interesting dynamic between that and that,
Yeah, I just think like if you can't pay a pastor his salary every few weeks, every month, whatever, if you can't pay him to be your pastor, then you shouldn't be a church yet. If you don't have that resource. But people think,
and also like, what are the parameters for how much you pay a pastor? Like how is that decided?
Yeah, I know pastors right now who make almost $400,000 a year.
Fuck, are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah, they have.
That's not even not even justifiable.
Yeah, I think. Well, here's the thing. It's weird. It's such a weird thing. Like on one hand, I don't want churches to talk about money, and I think I have a solution somewhat to that, but I know no one's going to want to be like, I don't want anyone to tell me what I have to do. Yeah, but you're a church though. And then the other side of it is, I'm personally don't feel that great about people making $400,000 a year just pastoring a church or being a pastor at a church who speaks, a lot. And maybe he does.
Really not a good witness anyway, because, I mean, if you think about it, like you look at the way Jesus talked to people and the way Jesus lived his life, and nobody got in it for the money. And if you're making $400,000 a year, you're in it for the money. I mean, like, maybe not in it for the money, but it's hard to say you're not, like, I think being a pastor should be a sacrifice on in multiple ways, and I think that like there's really no reason to make that much money unless that's a shitload of money. I mean, in my humble, I make $20,000 a year, so but
Yeah, it's a
like,
lot of money. I mean, if I made $400,000 a year, I don't know what I would do with that money.
I don't either. Like, I don't
You know what I
understand
mean?
that.
I'm sure I could figure it out, but
Easy.
yeah, oh yeah, just with the first year or so, I could probably blow through that. Yeah, it's weird because I think that people should be able to make as much money as they want to make, and I would
Yeah.
never put a restriction on that. But I think that when you make it as a nonprofit organization and you're paying, and that's not extra stuff, that's just salary for being a
Right.
pastor.
That's not benefits or any stuff like
Right.
that.
So I think at that point we have to examine, like, are you really a church that is nonprofit, or are you a church for profit? And I think that there's nothing wrong with making that distinction. Just make the distinction, though, because if you're pulling in that much money, there are certain things you're doing for profit. You know, and so I think that should change then. But I'm not an economist, and you know, I just know some of these people, and I know they're not bad people, and they're not like televangelists on TV. They're just pastors of big churches, and their churches pay them that much money, and they give a lot of their money away. They're super generous to charities and stuff. They probably give away half their money, but that's still $200,000 a year. And
I think $100,000 a year, in my humble opinion, is a stretch.
yeah, so it's weird. It's kind of a weird thing because I think somewhere along the road, church and business kind of mingled. And I think instead of a distinction being made, it just kind of like rode through. And that's coincidentally the peak of when the whole kind of prosperity thing started getting preached about a lot more and more and more about, like, yeah, but God does want you to have money and wealth. And I'm just like, yeah, sure. Sounds great. You know, I just don't know what that looks like.
It's hard.
You know what I mean? It's hard to like figure out, like, I don't think there should be rules, but I just do think that we should take some moral inventory of, yeah, but why? Why am I making this much money as somebody who serves the needs of the poor?
Right. Hey, so I hate to do this, but my wife just sent me a text and I have to meet her at the grocery store.
Sweet. See ya.
I'm sorry. This was fun. I want to do it again, though, and have more time.
Yeah, totally.
Cool, dude. All right.
See ya.
What's your name down there in the bottom right corner of my screen?
Tracy.
I'm Daytona.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you, Tracy. Catch you guys later.
See ya.
All right, see ya. Tracy, what do you think?
About churches and money?
Yeah.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't stress it as much. The majority of churches I've been to are big churches, so I kind of see like how much work and stuff is put into it. So I kind of get it.
Totally. Yeah.
Get it. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot. That's a lot for 400 is a lot. I think 100. If you're really running a huge big church, and I won't name any names.
Mm-hmm.
100, 125,000, and especially in California, for sure, I can see that being okay. But 400,000, I mean, that's a presidential salary. That's arguably the biggest job in our country. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's a weird thing because, like I said, I don't think that we should put restrictions on how much money people can make.
Mm-hmm.
But
when you're serving people, it's different. I mean,
so if we thought about it like McDonald's, right?
Oh God.
We say I'm a store manager at McDonald's. I make $400,000 a year.
It's a lot. I would sign up to be a store manager at McDonald's.
Right.
Job.
And it's not like that's every pastor. That's rare. You know what I mean? You have like a handful of pastors that have big churches that make that much money. And in most churches, the pastor is barely scraping by or.
Exactly. mean, I
Or
can
living modestly, yeah.
off the top of my head. I don't know. I guess it doesn't really affect me. I mean, I think overall they're doing well, but I mean, it's just, it's a lot. Wait, sorry.
That's cats.
He likes to do that when I'm talking.
Yeah, I think it's a lot. But like I said, like I would love to see churches have more of like a community role.
I agree. Not just for like the members, like things that are like you said, like a food pantry or something where it's not like, okay, everyone from XYZ church, if you're poor, you can get this food. No, anybody, no questions asked, you know.
Right. Yeah, I
black,
think
white, gay, straight, whatever. Like, here's the food.
there's like three main areas that I see that most churches are not good at, that they kind of lack in. One is discipleship. Like lots of churches just don't know how to do discipleship or really how to get people into that mode. Another one is like outreach. Like a lot of churches aren't good at outreach. And I just don't think that if you don't have discipleship or outreach happening at your church, like I don't know that you're at church, really. You know, those are two.
You have to go to church every Sunday? Is that why this is so important to you?
Do I think I have to?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't. Like I'm happy when I go once a month, and I will refuse to go if I feel like I'm only going because of guilt. So I always examine and go like, do I want to go because I want to go, or do I want to go because I'm afraid I'll feel guilty if I don't? And if I'm afraid I'll feel guilty if I don't go. Because I think churches should be a place where everyone can participate and be productive, you know? So I feel like if I don't have something to give at church, or if it's not being given from a good place, then I'm not going to go. Also, if I don't have fun, I won't go. But I think a lot of times people put guilt and pressure on people for not going every Sunday. And I think a lot of it is financially, financially, God, what is that word?
Financially driven?
Yes. There you go. And it's not to like make money because I want to make money and get rich. It's literally like keeping the doors open, being able to pay staff. I just don't think that money should be dependent on people coming to church and giving money on a Sunday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would like to see like other things in place where that money is designated just for salaries and paying staff, so that then people who are staff can speak about money without any need to get people in the church so that they have money, you know?
Yeah.
I think that would be a good idea. In any other profession, I just feel like if you were speaking about a subject with no bias, but you get paid when that subject's addressed, that would be a conflict of interest. So I don't know how, as a pastor, I get money from your tithe, which goes to paying staff, but I'm going to talk about money for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I felt like at one of my old churches, they just like went on and on and on about tithe, and I was just like, really?
Yeah.
Like it was a whole series for an entire month. Like,
yeah, I've heard just like some outrageous things in my time. Like I remember one time somebody said, you know, if you don't give the tithe to God, God will take your tithe from you. He will take it from you some way. And he was basically insinuating you're going to get sick and have to go to the hospital. And that's how he'll get that money from you, or something like that. You know, bad things are going to happen to you if you don't tithe. And yeah, I just thought that was the craziest thing I'd ever heard. That God would like make you sick or make bad stuff happen to you, so that, because all in all, like God doesn't need our money.
no.
No. And God has a way of, if he thinks something's important, that thing will get money, and it will do so without causing inflation or impacting the economy in a negative way. I think. And also, I think the whole reason we tithe to churches is because churches are doing a work that we are proud of and that we trust and that we see that needs to be done. So we tithe to the church because giving money back to God is a cool thing, you know. It's a cool principle. And so if we can do that through a church that we see doing good stuff, that's good. But the minute like I see a church that isn't doing outreach or isn't doing discipleship or isn't feeding the homeless or taking care of the poor, I just don't give them my money. And they might even ask, like, Robert, we see you haven't tithed in ever. And I was like,
I've never had a church ever ask me that ever.
Oh yeah, I've had a church ask me, like, you haven't tithed. And I was like, yeah, well, you're not doing anything. Like, what do you want me to give money to? You know?
I like actually just giving my money directly to the homeless. Like, some people criticize that and say, oh, well, what if they're an alcoholic or a drug addict or this and that? It's just like, well, that's not my place to judge that. So I always have like dollar bills in my wallet, and that's what I do with my money.
Yeah.
You know, if someone asks, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, why should I give you this money? You asked for money. Here you go. Like,
we go back and forth on between a few other things. We give to Unlikely Heroes, which does like kind of like have a preventing sex trafficking organization, rescuing children from sex trafficking, which our friend runs. So we give to that. We give to like Iris Ministries because they're feeding poor orphans living in dumps in Africa. I'll give money to that all day.
Yeah.
You know, there's tons of stuff like that we give. As far as churches doing some work like that locally, it takes me a while to trust that the money is being used correctly, because I have gone to a church before who's like misused funds. And so then I just don't want to give, you know, ever again. So it's like an issue that we have, like, as far as a church body. But I think it's like totally solvable. You have a solution, but you know what I mean? Talking about money, and especially in general, makes people like really uncomfortable. And then talking about money when it comes to like church and like, are you stewarding the money correctly? You know, makes people very uncomfortable and they feel judged or attacked, which I don't care to do. I mean, I don't, not looking to like be the moral police or anything. It's just like, here's probably why people aren't giving you money. I mean, if people aren't giving them church money, it's most likely they don't trust what you're doing with it, or they don't trust you as a person. You know? Yeah. I mean, it's not that difficult. So, yeah.
Life is so much more easier in Catholic Church, let me tell you. I don't stress about this stuff anymore.
Oh, yeah. Have they even ask for money?
No. I mean, yeah, they do the collection plate, but no, I've been going now for over a year. There's not been one conversation, like one sermon about how, you know, you need to be giving into the Catholic Church. Now, have there been sermons about money? Yeah. Like, for instance, I guess one of the parishioners wrote in about us not having air conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So Father Matt's like, and he was very tactful about it, but you could tell he was like really bothered by this. He's like, the collection plate or the offering plate is not for air conditioning. Now, you know, the parishioners would like to have a fundraiser or do something on the side to get air conditioning in the building. He's like, I imagine it's going to cost like a lot of money. You know, go with you, like, do it. But there's people who are dying to go to church or who can't eat, and you're writing me about air conditioning in our building. When is enough? Like, you know, how many do you have to have a Mercedes? Do you have to have this? Basically, his whole message was, you know, it was about illegal immigration too, which kind of changed my standpoint on it. Oh, what is the reason you're worried about it? Is you're worried there's not going to be enough resources? Well, when is enough enough? What, do you have a roof over your head? Do you have a car? Do you have food? Like, you're doing so much better than most of the world, and you're worried about air conditioning and whether these illegal immigrants are going to come and eat all your food.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the most I've ever heard about money. Other than that, it's not talked about. So
Yeah.
it's easy.
And yet they have like probably the most money of any church denomination.
Absolutely. They get like, I think where I go, I think it was like somewhere between $12,000 and $15,000 a week. And no one ever talks about money.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you, and I know they have a ton of charities, and I know that they actually are doing stuff with the money, you know? And Father Matt isn't like rolling around in a Lexus, like he lives there in a humble area.
Right.
So I see Erin in the glass.
She's there.
I'm elusive.
She is elusive.
I know. I just been having Yep. Hey, Erin.
Are you the only one?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
We had Daytona, but his wife and something about groceries. So
I know.
no, I just happier. Like it's just so much more quiet. I go in, and yeah, there's people around, but I have my time with God, and then we wish each other peace, and like you could tell people actually like really do wish you well, and then you're done, and that's it. Like you're involved as much as you want to be, or you're not. There's not really a lot of like places to be involved, you know?
Right.
I feel anonymous and not judged. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I mean, I remember going to Catholic church, and there isn't like a whole. I mean, there can be. I think it definitely depends on the church, but yeah, I remember just like everyone having fun, and like no one really took their spirituality too seriously. Like, you know what I mean? There's no like diehard, like strict, like people that were like, you can't do this, that is like horrible. Ah.
yeah.
No, like everybody had fun. We would go to Six Flags all the time. It was fun. It was a fun time. Because I went to like private school at the Catholic church. So it was fun.
My grandmother grew up in a Catholic orphanage. Forgot what the word for that was, but.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to call it a wrap, and we'll try to do this again.
Down bueno, senor.
Cool. Thanks for joining in.
You're welcome. Bye, Erin.
Bye.
See ya.
Latest.